What would you say is the best investment you've made in terms of cars?
So right now, the Porsche 918s, I paid about 1.6 for mine, and the YSAC model that I have are going for like 2.1 to 2.3, so a 50% return on a car that I put 10,000 miles on and have owned for 2.5 years. That one is the first one that comes to mind. Keep in mind, I only started this collection about 3 years ago. I had a couple super hypercars prior to that, but I only have 3 years of history on super and hypercars. And then all of the like lower dollar ones, I made a lot because I sold a lot of them. Like I changed my buying habit to when you have hypers, it's really hard to drive anything under 500 grand. And again, that sounds silly, but like if you have 5 hypercars, a 765 LT or Vuelto, that's a $500,000 plus car, and then you have multiple million, you're far less likely to go drive your Ford GT or your Countach or your GT3RS because there's way cooler cars that you can go drive. So I sold a lot of the GT3RS, the 488 GTB, my Ford GT, and I made like 100 grand on every single one of those cars because I bought them all just before the COVID pop and I sold them all in like 22. So that was great. That was a great time. But I think the 918 is the one that's increased the most in value. We get hit really, if you take away the YouTube tax, and I call it that because influencers that sell cars that have been abused on their channel, like there's a real expense there. It's 5 to 10% of your car's value. I probably took a $300,000 hit on my Bugatti Chiron because of what we did on our YouTube channel.
Which of the cars in here, the cars that you own, would you want to keep if you had to get rid of every single other one aside from like daily drivers like your Model X and stuff like that?
So like I talked to Stradman and he's like, you want to build long-term connections with your cars and your viewers. And I think he's right. Like people don't want to see you go through cars, but I want to go through cars. Like I'm not super loyal to these cars. I get very tired of things very quickly. And so in my head, there's like 2 of those cars. Like I think I hold on to the Chiron SS for a long time because there's a good story behind that. And there was a lot of work and energy. My Chevelle SS, I tried to sell it like 2 years ago and my kids wanted to kill me because they love that car. Like they were teeny tiny when I would drive them around in that. I've had that longer than any other car. That one stays here. I really thoroughly like my 765 LT. That one's super fun. I've had it that's one of the few cars that survived like my purge that I did 2 years ago. I have I looked at my last collection, the tour of the collection that we did 2 years ago, and like 90% of those cars are gone. Like we have all new hypers, all new supercars. And I don't think for our channel, like James Stradman does really well, like just lifestyle. Like people want to see him have journeys with cars, where with us, it's just taking deliveries, doing really fun, stupid stuff, and then moving on to the next. And so it fits my personality and the way that I do it well. I think I gotta look. The Viper I'll have forever. That's the one that I bought, and I bought that to keep that. I don't think there's any other car here that I'm loyal to. I said that about my 918, but like then I saw that it went up 50% in value. I'm like, how do I keep this car? Is it bringing me that much joy where it's worth 50% more than what I paid for? I don't know. I'd rather capitalize while that market is hot. That's probably it. I think those 3.
The last tour that you did valued the entire collection at 30 million.
Yeah.
And that's about where it's at.
We're probably closer to, with deposits that I have for all of these cars. I have the Bugatti Tourbillon. I have the Koenigsegg Gemera, the Koenigsegg Jesko, the Pagani Utopia, the McLaren P18. You have to put a lot of money down on these cars. Like you have to put, for the Bugatti, I think I had $1.5 million down for 2 years, not earning interest, just sitting there. And so you got to put down big bucks along the way. So if you include all the money I have invested in that crap, I'm probably near 30, and there's 23 to 25 sitting here, plus all the deposits that I have. And we've shifted into more hypercars and expensive hypercars now and less supercars. But like, it's weird because the value really is about the same, but I have like 10 less cars. And it's because I sold 10 cars that equal one of these hypercars in value. And it's got me thinking, I'm like, how important is it to have those extra 10 cars? And is it worth just going and buying a bunch of those other fun cars to improve experience, just have more color and variety for the channel? Is it worth just making another $2-3 million investment, the same as one hypercar, just to bring all of them back? And I struggle with that.
What are you noticing that's happening in the car market right now? Because I've seen a lot of prices begin to come down significantly.
There's very few that are still hanging on to good values. Like the Ford GT is staying strong. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. personal. Yeah. Those I bought mine at $295 in 2020 and I sold it for almost $400 and they're all going. I just asked today about it and I'm like, if you ever get one under $400, let me know. I'm not going to buy it anyway, but I just want to know. And they're selling Chicago Motor Cars here locally who have helped transact a bunch of our cars and they're tremendous human beings over there. They said they're all going like 425, 450 plus, which is pretty crazy.
I'm tempted to sell mine.
Yeah.
Very tempted.
And this is one of those times where I'm like, at that valuation, I don't think there's crazy growth in that price for a little bit, but you never know if that's $1 million car in 2 years. A lot
of people are saying that they're hoping for that $1 million. I think we did a vlog
where we're like, this is going to be $1 million car in 5 years, like 2 years ago. And it's on that trajectory, right? Yeah. But by and large, everything, all of the COVID stuff has been wiped away and it's even corrected itself where my Ferrari SF90 that I bought and waited 1.5 years for, when I ordered that thing, they were all selling for $100,000 above MSRP. By the time I got it, they were like $20,000 below MSRP. By the time I was able to sell it, I put it up for sale right away because I hated that car. That was my least favorite car that I've actually, specific model that I've ever owned. It has no soul, too much electric, just hated it. And that one, I ended up selling for $570 and I paid $720. So that's how big of a hit. And this was all over the course of like 6 months. So they overproduced that car, I think. But that's happening kind of with everything. Like you can get Aventadors for high twos again. And like I sold my 13,000 mile base Aventador for $360, $370 during COVID. And I paid like $280, $290 for it. So everything is kind of corrected. It is, if interest rates were low, I'd be like, this is such a good time if you're building a channel to go buy cars, but interest rates are high. So it's tough. 2020 and 21 were like peak times to go buy and build your fleet.
Where do you see the market going from here?
I know of some cars that I know will be significantly higher. Like a Bugatti Veyron is a $1.2 million car for an 06, 07. That's crazy to me. Like that's got to be a $5 million car in 5 years, maybe more. Like that car broke top speed records. It's already almost 20 years old. It shocks me how they're a lot to maintain and repair, but it shocks me how cheap those things are. The Porsche 918 I had been saying was undervalued in the McLaren P1. Similar, actually less production numbers than the LaFerrari, because I think a lot of car manufacturers inflate actual numbers than, particularly in the Italian market, they seem to inflate what they actually produce or say that they produce. But like all those cars are about the same price. That's the Holy Trinity. And the 918 and the P1, the non-Weissach 918 is still in the mid ones where the LaFerrari has hit 4. Part of that could be because of Ferrari shenanigans with trying to get you to buy your way up to new allocations. That probably has a lot to do with it. But those I think are, the P1 I think is an undervalued car. Those actually took a big hit. I think they're in the mid ones again. Like that car will be worth a lot more money. The Ford GT is if you can get one at $390, $400, that's a good car to buy. But if we're generally speaking, I think that it's going to follow the same thing that it's done, where if you go buy a just off the shelf Aventador, you're going to take a big hit. That car's not going to be worth anything. If you get a special variant like an SV, an SVJ, and you want to hold on to it for 20 years, okay, yeah, maybe you're going to make some money at that point. You're really only going to make money if you can pick that unicorn, because there are so few vehicles under $1 million where they're going to be worth more. And it's usually rare color combos or variants of cars that you have to sit on and keep low mileage. Or if you can get that allocation at MSRP for a hypercar. Like it's hard to make money on cars. I think the vast majority of them you're going to lose money on.
Yeah. I saw recently the Huracan STO on Bring a Trailer, brand new car. The guy probably just took delivery, like 20 miles on it.
Yeah.
Sold significantly below, or I think it didn't even hit his reserve, significantly below the MSRP of the car from the guy just taking delivery of this thing,
that sucks.
Which is crazy, because that's what it used to be like. I mean, my recollection has always been pre-2020 that you would get a car and instantly lose 10-15% of its value.
With the exception of a few, I think you're right. Yeah, by and large, it's time to start discounting off of MSRP. The Urus is
oh my
cratered.
gosh, yes.
Those were like, if you got a year or two old model, they were 300, and now they're all like 200. Those have
the Bentley Bentayga. You may as well just buy one of those things for you can get one $70,000.
You can get it. Yeah, you can get it one a couple years old.
Yep. 2018, $70-something thousand. And it looks, that's one of the cars you buy that makes you look rich.
Yeah.